Hello, and welcome to Purlfect Pairings. My name is Gayanne, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm coming to you from Melbourne, Australia, where it is really hot today. So I'm not wearing any knits, but I have a few knits to show you. But before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I am recording the podcast today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I have so much to share with you coming off of my trip to the United States, where I visited my family in Massachusetts and as well went to New York City to attend Vogue Knitting Live, and the experience was more than I thought it would be. So where should we start? How about with some finished objects? First, I am so happy that I finished my travel knitting project, my Coorie in Poncho. The Coorie in Poncho is designed by Amy Palco. She has a beautiful podcast called The Meaningful Stitch. So if you haven't or don't know about that podcast, I really highly recommend checking that out. Amy has recently started designing some patterns of her own, and this is the first one that I've made of hers, and it is fabulous. It's really hot, but I've got to pop this on because it's fabulous. The design, it's not blocked yet, but there you go. Your arms are free, but you've got lovely coverage in the front and the back. The construction, in fact, I think I might have it on backwards. The construction is such that there are short rows that lift the neck, so you're very cuddly here up in the neck. I modified mine to give it a full-on turtleneck look because I love that coziness. It just brings it to the next level. The yarn that I'm using was a gift from my husband from his trip to the United States, and it is called Rewa Fibers. It's their Embrace Tibetan Yak yarn. The colorway is Mama's Dress, and I'll put all the details for the projects and other references in the description box, which you can access on the main page. So you'll have all of those details. This knit was a fabulous travel project because it was a simple pattern that I easily memorized. I think I probably got about halfway on my first flight, first long haul flight. I knit on it while I was away, and then by the time I was landing in Melbourne, I was starting the cast off. I highly recommend this. It's a beautiful, fairly quick knit. It's great for travel, and I know I'm going to get a ton of use out of this. Again, the Coorie in Poncho, and Coorie in, I think Amy says, means to kind of shelter in or hunker down when the weather is poor outside, and we've got beautiful weather. It's just about 500 degrees, so I'm going to take this off before I combust, and I'll weave in my ends and block that in the next few days. Now, the second finished object that I have to share with you is another one that I finished while I was away, and that is my Semplice shawl by Vera Marcoux. You'll know Vera from Vera Loves Knitting on Instagram, and it is a test knit that I did for Vera. The first iteration of it, I knit, I didn't get gauge. Kind of funny story. I finished the whole thing. I took it off the needles and then realized it could fit an American Girl doll. It was basically a bandana sized. So I took it out and reknit it. And isn't it wonderful? Look at the pattern. The one thing that I love about this shawl, well, I love the size. It's not too overpowering. And what I love about it is it uses knit and purl, the most basic of stitches, to create a really complex and kind of intricate design that looks like it's a lot harder than it is. And I think Semplice is Italian for simple, so it's a really apt name. I've knit this in Pirate Purl. Sorry, it's right here. Pirate Purl Polwarth Silk Blend in the colorway Drive Me Wild. And this is how much I had left over of the 2 skeins, so it really used up, there were minimal leftovers, which is another aspect that I love about the project. And I finished, woven the ends, and blocked this in time to wear it at Vogue Knitting Live. So hopefully Vera got some love from that, and it's been a fantastic project, and I recommend this pattern as well. I love the color of this yarn. Katrina dyes beautiful yarns at Pirate Purl as well. Moving on from finished objects, now onto my trip. And boy, I was gone for almost 3 weeks. And it was really fantastic to be able to spend some quality time with my family and doing some things with them that were really fun. I got to see my nephew swim in his college swim meet. I got to see a few snowstorms with the result of having to shovel the driveway. Those things are very nostalgic to me. I haven't lived anywhere where it snows in probably close to 30 years. So that was just a really special part of the trip. My mom took me to a couple of yarn shops as well that I want to talk about. The first one is the Fiber Loft, which is in Harvard, Massachusetts. They have a beautifully curated selection of yarns there. And when I walked in, I couldn't believe my eyes when I found this. Plotulopi, which is an unspun yarn from Iceland. I have never actually seen it in person until I walked into the Fiber Loft, so I had to take some home with me. I've got a few plates of the gray and 1 plate of the pink, and I'm hoping that I can make a Weatherill sweater by Kiyomi Bergen. Sorry, I butchered her name. But that sweater is a beautiful colorwork sweater, so I could do the yoke in the pink and the body in the gray, and I think the effect will be absolutely beautiful. So that was the successful trip to Fiber Loft. I'll put those back down there. The other yarn shop that we went to was Webb's. Now, Webb's is an absolute mecca of yarn. I'm pretty sure that I've spoken about it before. If you follow Prue Raymond on Instagram, she went there as well on her trip. It is huge. I mean, we are talking like a yarn shop that is about the size of a supermarket in Australia, your average Coles. There's the front part where there's more of the hand-dyed and the knitting needles, as well as huge displays of really basically any kind of yarn that you are looking for, whether it's superfine merino to Rowan. They have a big Rowan display, and then out the back there is the warehouse, and you can just roam the aisles there back and forth, and I don't know that there is a kind of yarn that they don't carry, so it can be a bit overwhelming. The one display that really caught my eye, and I'm not quite sure why I have this desire to find Lopi yarn, but I managed to, and I picked up a sweater quantity. I'll show just a few of the skeins of the navy blue and the gray. Here it is. For the Marled sweater by Natasha Hornby of Moonstruck Knits, and I cannot wait to make this. It will be a sweater that I can wear to the football because it's Carlton colors. If you're a longtime viewer of the podcast, you'll know that I'm a rabid Carlton Football Club supporter. So I thought navy blue with gray club colors will be fabulous. So I picked that up. The other yarn I got was to make the Anaris sweater by Susanna Kartinen. Susanna gifted me the pattern for Christmas, and I found this beautiful trio of colors. This black is a real heathered yarn. I'm gonna try and hold it up so you can see that, the different colors in it, the purples and the greens that just match these colors. I'll put a picture in here so you can hopefully see that more up close, because this I think is going to make a beautiful Anaris sweater. So much knitting, so little time. We'll figure out how I will make those things happen. As if that wasn't enough, the trips to the yarn shops. Carolyn of the Woolly Needle let me know that there was a fiber festival going on in Wayland, Massachusetts at a place called Russell's Garden Center, which is a beautiful nursery where you would go and get all sorts of plants, indoor plants, outdoor plants. As well, they have a gift shop there, and they were hosting what they call Farm Fiber. I'll put in the link to Farm Fiber because you can go through and look at all of the farms who were attending, and the main premise, I think, for the stall holders was that they were a farm or a small producer of farm yarn, and the selection was absolutely incredible. There were probably, I would say, 30 different vendors there, some with natural yarn, some who did dyeing of yarn. There was a fiber petting area. One of the booths had these cards with all different types of fiber, so you could go and feel it, so you could compare how soft the various wools were. It was really fabulous, and they hold it, I think, twice a year. There was the one that when I was there in January, and there's another one in March. So if you're in the area, I highly recommend it. If you are into kind of artisan type of yarns, I found a lovely yarn. Sorry, they're all tangled up here. I've got a few skeins of these. This is Tidal yarn. It's from a farm in Connecticut where Patricia sources her fleeces, has the yarn spun for herself, and then dyes it with natural plants and bugs and other dyeables, I suppose you could call it. So this color, the gray, is a natural color, but this pink color is dyed with I think cochineal is the dye for it, and it's beautiful. I would love to learn a bit more about natural dyes. Maybe later on in the year I can do a bit more research. These skeins are earmarked for the Yvonne MT shawl. It's a pattern that I've had in my library for a number of months. and I am loving the artist's shawl that I'm knitting right now, also by Natasha Hornby, and I'm super keen to do more mosaic knitting, so can't wait to get started on that. The Farm Fiber Festival was also where I got to meet Irina from Fiber Chats, and I was so excited because she was part of the inspiration for starting Purlfect Pairings when it first began, and I really enjoy Irina's podcasts. So if you don't know Fiber Chats, you should go check her out as well. The other another very exciting moment at Farm Fiber was when I got to meet Gudrun Johnson. I bought a copy of Gudrun's book, Great Shetland Adventures, and had her sign it. I didn't know that her co-author, Mary Jane Mucklestone, would be at Vogue Knitting Live, but the thought was that I could have Gudrun sign it in Wayland and then have Mary Jane sign it when she comes to Australia, and I'll be going to the class at Tarndy that she's teaching, so I cannot wait to have her sign it there. I've already picked out a project that I want to make from that book. It's called the Riggy Sweater, and it looks just so cuddly and cozy, and I found a color that I love of the Jamieson's Shetland wool, so I'll just have to try and source it. We'll see, because it's not easily sourceable in Australia, but if you know of a way that I might be able to get my hands on some, please put it in the comments. That could really help me out. Now on to Vogue Knitting Live, and it was probably one of the most amazing fiber experiences that I have ever had. Between the classes and the people that I met and the market, it was just one thing after another, even better. So where do I even start? Well, I guess I'll start with the classes. I was meant to take a class in the ergonomics of continental knitting with Carson Demers, but that class had to be canceled. So I ended up in a designer edging class with Deborah Newton. Now, I hadn't really heard of Deborah Newton before I took this class, but she is an incredibly prolific designer. I'll put a link to her website in the description box. And we had to knit up these swatches of textured knitting, which I did. And then during the class, well, the first half of the class was Deborah giving us a bit of a lecture on edging and picking up stitches and the different types of edging and how to look at edging in a garment. And that was so insightful. I really could have listened to her give a lecture for the entire 3-hour class. I thought she was fascinating and had an incredible amount of knowledge and humor. I would have loved to have been able to sit and have a martini with her. Anyway, I digress. But this is one of the edges that we've created by picking up the stitches, knitting some stockinette, and then just putting in a simple eyelet. And look at the effect. I thought that was beautiful. We had a second go, and this was my second textured swatch. And maybe I wouldn't put a ruffle on that, but I had never done a ruffle before, and I wasn't really sure how it was constructed, but I just winged this, and I can't believe how ruffly that ruffle is. And you could see easily how it could be around a neckline, or as maybe a little cuff, but just really fun, and able to explore something that I had never thought to do. The other really nice thing about that class is that it was sponsored by Cascade, and Cascade generously donated some yarn to the participants of the class, and I ended up with these 3 skeins of Cascade 220. Now, I love these colors, and I thought that they would make a fantastic color work cowl. So if you know of any nice patterns for a 3-colored cowl, why don't you drop that in the comments, and I can have a look at those patterns. We'll see. But it's a beautiful soft yarn. I think it's Peruvian wool, Peruvian Highland wool, mulesing free, non-superwash. So it's very springy. I think it would also lend itself very well to textured knits. I'm looking forward to knitting with this. The second class that I took was with Vera Valimaki, who was the most lovely instructor. The first half of the class, again, was theory in making round yoke sweaters and how the construction of those sweaters work. We then started off on making our own little mini sample sweater, and Vera invited us to do some color work or design that we wanted to put in the yoke, so you could kind of see how that would work out. So I started doing these little hearts that I thought were very cute, but I feel now like I could, if I had a good swatch, I think I could actually create a round yoke sweater for myself, even maybe not without a pattern. I'd probably write it out first, but I feel confident enough that I could do something pretty basic once I knew, I guess, the gauge and how big it needed to be, that kind of thing. Vera went over how to take your measurements and turn that into what the stitch counts you would need for the neckline and the bust and the bottom and the sleeves. It was just really, really comprehensive, and yeah, it was great, and Vera's explanations were very clear. I really enjoyed that class. Then the last class that I took was Colorwork Games with Zandy Peters, and it was a real look inside how to lay out motifs in different permutations or different ways to create designs. So you have the same, I think it was maybe 10 tiles, and you organize them in this game, one of the games, and there were, I think, 8 people in the workshop, and none of us actually laid them out the same. So it just goes to show you there's some infinite amount of ways you can organize these tiles and how they can create color work. It was just very, very inspiring, and it's one of the reasons why I've been, I think, kind of itching to get into some color work. So I'm sure that will influence my knitting in a little bit later this year once I get through some of my current whips. I will also plug that if you live in Sydney or Brisbane, Zandy is visiting and doing classes, I think at both Skein Sisters and the Yarn Bowl, and I would highly recommend Zandy's instruction or tutelage. I would love to travel up to Sydney to take the course on the Fox Paws shawl. I would love to knit that. I just have some other travel hopefully coming up later in the year, and I'll be saving up for that a bit. Anyway, if you're there, or if you want to go there, I think there's still spots available, but hurry up and book. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, I think I have posted photographs of all of the incredible people that I met and had so many girl crush moments where I met Sari Nordland, Amy Gillet, Olga from Gotham Knits, and Claudia Quintanilla from Unit Toronto. They were giving out these beautiful, my favorite kind of little muslin project bags and free patterns. So generous. And I had a lovely conversation with Claudia about what she looks for or what she loves about the tech editors that she works with. So it was a real pleasure to talk to her and get that experience from her, given that I'm just starting out on my tech editing journey. It was fabulous. I was also struck by how incredibly open and nice and just willing to have a chat that people like Amy Gillet and Sari Nordland were, and I was so grateful for the interactions that I had with them. It was just really lovely and set a tone for the market that that really kind of carried through. I had some highlights, this one right here being the first. This is some Wool Dreamers Manchelopis that I picked up. Again, it is an unspun yarn, so I can find the end here. It's not spun, it's a finger roving, and you knit with it, and the fabric that it produces is incredibly light. Now I had a little bit of a snafu because I had wanted the pink and I saw it Friday night and I thought I'll just come back Saturday morning and get it. I'll figure out exactly how much I need. And when I got back, they didn't have the amount that I needed. And Beatrice, who was lovely and wiped my tears for me, basically, did offer to ship to the US, but I said, well, it's got to go to Australia because I left on the Sunday. And they did have enough in the cream to do a sweater that I picked out, so I'll be hopefully getting started with that pretty soon too. We'll see. I cannot wait to try this unspun yarn, this as well as the Plotulopi, and I'll let you know how I go with them and my experience with them, and then we'll see if I want to step up to try and get some knitted in, because I think that would be, first off, a real challenge, but I think we can have another episode about unspun yarn later on this year. A couple of other market purchases. This one being, I'll just take two of them out. This is the Yak DK weight 100% baby yak in the most incredible pink color I think I have ever seen, and I cannot wait to knit with this. After knitting with the other yak yarn for my poncho, it's incredibly warm, it is incredibly soft, the color is beautiful, and I'm going to pick out something quite plain so that the yarn will just shine. It won't need a lot of cables or lace or anything, because it will just, I cannot wait to knit with this, and I want it to be something that will be a wardrobe staple that I will pick up again and again and again. A couple of other things from the marketplace that I learned about, the first being Knit Note. So Knit Note, it's knitandnote.com. It's actually kind of a competitor to Ravelry, So it's a place where there are patterns and you can store your stash electronically, so like an electronic inventory of the yarn that you have. And they had a booth there, so check them out. I don't know that I'm quite ready to stray from Ravelry. I love it, but it seems to be a bit more aesthetically pleasing as well as user-friendly than Ravelry in terms of how it was described. I haven't tried to use it yet, but it's something to keep on your radar. Now let's talk stitch markers, because I picked up a few in the market. These I just thought were absolutely gorgeous. They look like jewelry rather than stitch markers. I could probably wear it as a little pin, but they're from Indigo Lane. I'll take a picture and put that in. They're from Indigo Lane and they're just absolutely gorgeous. The others that I picked up were from Katrinkles, and they had these gorgeous New York themed set of stitch markers that are just fabulous. My favorite one is the pretzel, and I know I'll be using these on my next project. And I'll just point out, I'll just highlight one other thing. When I was there, there was a person handing these out there at Meditation, and it says, "The world needs your light." And I just loved that. It was a great way to start. They were just kind of hovering around the registration booths, and I'll figure out a really special place for this little heart. Well, I think that is all that I have to share, my friends. If you have any questions about Vogue Knitting Live and my experience there, I'd be more than happy to answer it. So you can drop that in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to think that I could go back again next year, but we'll see. We'll see how the rest of this year goes. And one of the things I wanted to do, or my New Year's resolution, was to travel more. So who knows? We'll see how we go. And that's all for me today. So until next time, if you liked this show, please give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to receive my videos in your inbox or on your dedicated list of channels. And yes, the comments, please comment. 3 colorwork cowls, cowl patterns. And until next time, happy knitting!